started.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are starting the today's session, which is going to help you with the very important and very interesting, I would say, I'm very excited of this project. This is probably the most interesting assignment you will be doing, not only in this class, but in the whole program. Why? Because it integrates many different things from all the sites you have studied up to now. First, you solve a problem which is in high demand in any place today, from industry, government, you name it. Everyone wants to know the sentiment of customer, the sentiment of people sharing information in social network, for security. HR department want to know the sentiment. So this is very important problem today, which almost every in any corner. So you are working in this specific, very practical, very important problem today. And in addition, you are using cutting-edge technology in the cloud, which is not just where you store the data and how you access the data, but it has integrated analytical tool in the cloud with the database, which is DB2 has integrated RStudio environment, which is the true paradigm today for the data scientists, to have everything integrated and you just load your data, clean your data, and go ahead and do the analysis. So I wanted to stress on this, even though it's in the classroom spread on different places, just to reinforce this idea about this assignment and how you use everything you studied about text analysis, machine learning in all other classes in order to solve a problem like this. So we will focus today mostly in the practical stuff, in the environment and how to be successful with this technology. So that's why we have this additional session. In addition to the 3 lectures in the module, we have these sessions in which Elena is going to give you a helpful hint regarding the technology and how to overcome the learning curve and get successful in completing the assignment using this technology. With no more, I'm giving the word to her. Elena, is you.
Just realized I was on mute. Okay, so that's a big thing, right? So I'm just gonna jump straight here. This is a repeat, right? So you need to submit the cases, and there are some ungraded SQL exercises. So if you have questions about those, please don't hesitate to submit the cases. I'm gonna help you, especially if it's ungraded, because what's ungraded on this assignment is gonna be graded on next assignment. So hint, hint, okay? Now, this is what not to do. So please do everybody a favor. Do not submit any tickets to IBM, okay? Please do not cancel your IBM Cloud account. And I don't know how much to stress it. 3 people did it this semester. Do not enter credit card, okay? Okay, because, well, credit card not allowed. Maybe you can put Social Security next time or something. No, I'm joking. Okay, now do not update R in the integrated RStudio environment. Please do not open more than one, do not add more than one instance of the DB2, because sometimes you're gonna forget where you loaded the data and you're gonna be, well, I just loaded my data, where is it? So only one instance, unless I tell you otherwise. Please do not install any packages. There are 3 exceptions, right? There are 3 packages that you are told to install in instructions. Do not install anything else, okay? Do not open application in multiple browsers. And this one is stop. If the load takes a little bit, right, don't stop it. Just let it run. Because when you cancel it, you're generating another process, all right? So another thing, this is very sad, but somebody always does it. SQL code, do not put it in any Word programs, or do not put it in anything like a rich text editor. Please use notepad or textpad for this because it inserts bad characters such as Microsoft Word quote, and there are unexpected results. The code just gets broken and you cannot fix it, okay? Then don't use browser back button, okay? Then for RStudio, very important, you do not click on X to exit the application. You run the command to quit, right? And then you stop the runtime environment. Because when you close the browser, you're not stopping the runtime environment, right? So you don't want to spend the days on the error. You have to ask for assistance, okay? Oh, that's important. CSV file, please don't open it when you download it from the classroom, okay? Now, next thing, well, let's look at the big picture, what you are asked to do. You have a data set, right? And you're given the data set description. You need to load the data to DB2. You're gonna make sure that no error, there should be no error. You're gonna check the metadata, right? You're gonna analyze, you're gonna run some queries. Then you're gonna load data into our environment. Unfortunately, we no longer can read data from the database into R directly. So what you have to do is you have to upload the data to the object storage bucket. And most of you have done it all of you did it for the other assignments, right? Then in R, you can access the data that you uploaded to object storage, but it has to be the same project. Very important, very important. The data must be uploaded in the same project from which you launch in the RStudio. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the data, okay? And then you interpret the findings. But that's very important. I forgot to mention it in the assignment instruction. That's very important. You have to do it in the same project. Okay, so here DB2 on cloud, you've got this 200 megabyte of storage space. That should be more than enough, right? So DB2 supports the advanced processing and is designed sort of like prefetch data before it actually needed. Then no decompression required, right? And then also there is such a thing as data skipping. So large chunks of data can be skipped if they're not relevant to a particular query, right? So that's important part. What's DB2 on cloud is? Well, and here are different type of analysis that are available. When you load data in R, you can analyze, do trend analysis. You can do association rules, decision trees, and etc. Network of terms is my favorite, and more. Okay, now caution: if you delete the DB service, all your data will be gone, right? When you add a new instance, you have to load data again. Now, well, when you load the data, I'm going to use the hotel data today. That's another example. You will have to do way more changes. If you want to use the data to follow along, those are the changes. You need to change the column width. And I'm going to admit to you that there was a recent change update to DB2. So I was only able to load the part of the hotel review data. I was unable to load everything. So I'm just going to be giving you the partial data that I'm going to be showing today. Okay, so once you load the data, you're going to see this information, database name. And this is very important information. It tells you the date when the data was loaded, right? The time when the load started, the time when the load finished. This information must be part of your submission, okay? Well, because, well, it's important to show how many records you loaded, how many records were skipped, right? Etc. So it's important. In the end, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, there should be no errors for that data. Now here, this query shows you how to validate the load programmatically. Actually, what I like to do is I actually like to go to the DB2 groups and to run this. So this is the DB2 instance that I just launched. And you remember how to launch the DB2, right? You launch it from your resources on your dashboard, right? So I'm gonna close this. I want to show you back how to launch it because I had several people who not sure how to launch it. After you edit the service, this is a IBM Cloud, right? Your account. You're gonna go to the resource list. See this here? There is a resource list, right? Resource list, dashboard resource list. Then you're going to expand, and this is the one, M3. That's the one I'm using. Okay. Well, this is what you did, right? And then you're just gonna click on go to UI, and that should launch the front end, right? And hopefully you watched the video on how to load data, so I'm gonna assume you did. This is how you go to the SQL editor, and I'm gonna just say create new. And what I did for you, I created this file. So I'm just gonna do this. And you may see some discrepancies in the output in the PowerPoint and what you see here, because I was unable to load the entire file. So we're just gonna work with what we have. Okay, now let's run this one. Here, what this returns, it returns the number of what? It returns the number of rows, right? So I'm gonna do run selected, and I'm just gonna do, okay, so this returns the number of rows, right? And as you see, this is what I loaded today. Well, okay, now this one, it returns, what is it, metadata? It's gonna return the data about what? About the table. These tables, right? It's a metadata, it's gonna return data about the table. Well, this is how you see the output one. Okay, so you run this. This happens. So, oh, results. This is a result. You have to click on the result. Here we go. This is a result of the first query. And then here, this one is going to be the result of the next query. Oops. Okay. Oh, I got the issue. The issue is I have to put a different schema name, because right now I'm using a different user. Okay, so let's do this. Let me comment that out. Okay, let me comment that out and do this. Okay, I'm gonna run this now. Okay, run selected. Now it's just gonna tell me, it's gonna show me all tables, right? But you're only interested in your tables, right? So that's why I initially specified the schema name. See, those are the system tables, right? You're interested only in your table. This is my table. So that's gonna do this. I'm just gonna do this and I'm gonna edit the query. Sorry guys about that. Okay, this is the query. And uncomment. Okay, so now let's run this. Let's run this query here. Run selected. And you're not asked about the entire output of the system table, but basically it shows you the table names that you have, who created the table, and the time when the table was created, and the column count. Then you're also asked to do this one, right? This one. So I'm going to run this again. Run selected. Well, and this is gonna give you what's the column metadata, right? That's it. Oh, well, here in the select statement, remember, we have the select clause, right? And I have it in the next slide, I think. Okay. Well, okay, we get back to this slide later. This is just shows you how to reload data if the table already exists. But let's focus, since we are now on the SQL, let's focus on the SQL part. So what are the clauses of the select statement? Select, it tells you which columns to display from, which is where you pull in the data. Where is a condition, right? It specifies, basically it filters the row. Group by, it's you telling if you want to do the summaries like average, sum, count, you specify the columns that you want to summarize on. Having clause, it filters the subsets of groups that meet specified condition. Like for example, suppose that I want to calculate the average grade for assignment, and I want to display the assignments only where the average is greater than 90. So that would be having average greater than 90, right? Not where, because where clause is going to filter out individual rows. Having is going to filter out the groups, okay? And order by is how you sort the data, right? But In a where clause, it's a condition for filtering rows. You can have more than one condition, right? That's what that thing is doing here. And well, what I'm doing here is this. I want to see the categories, name, reviews, text. Those are the columns in a hotel review table. And I say where review rating is neutral. And then I want to say that where reviews username contains this traveler, right? But I want my search to be case insensitive. So what I do is I convert this to uppercase, and like basically it allows you to search for the patterns, right? So this means contains, because this guy here, any number of characters, right, followed by traveler and followed by any number of characters. Let me go ahead and run this query. Okay, well, see this? What it did was, well, it showed me the hotel name, reviews text, where username, it contains travel. But for you, just to test it, right? Just to test it, you probably want to do this also, right? You want to make sure that the query works as expected. So if you see something that does not contain traveler, then you need to go back and you need to rewrite your query, okay? So here it is. See this? Well, you see this here, it contains traveler on lowercase, right? But I don't want my query to depend on how it's spelled. So what I did was I converted to the uppercase here, and in here you tell it's basically it's contains, right? Contains. Now distinct is going to give me the list of distinct values, or if you want to call this unique, but it's a distinct values. So now I know, well, those are the sentiment values that I have, right? I know that. So now what I want to do here is that I want to count how many times each hotel was mentioned. But look at it, what does it mean? I want to list the hotel name, then I want to list the count, right? Times mentioned. I'm doing it from hotel review category. I just want the hotels group by name. So let's see. It's supposed to show how many times the hotel is mentioned. Okay. Well, this shows me this. And if I was going to add all of these counts, right? This is just the partial output. If I was going to add all of the counts, it should be the total number of rows in a hotel review table where category is hotel. So this is how you can do. You can check your work. You can select count, right? Select count where this thing categories equals hotel. And you want to make sure that the sum of these numbers matches the number of rows where categories equals hotel. So, because you have to check your work somehow, okay? Okay. Well, here, what this does is, well, if you look at this, this is the output, right? Right? Suppose that, well, what I'm going to do, since I did not load all data, I'm going to slightly modify this query. I'm going to say this. Instead of 400, I'm going to say 100. So basically, here, what I want to do is, well, see this here, I have hotel, and it says how many times this hotel was mentioned. I want to list only the hotels that were mentioned 100 times, more than 100 times, right? I want to list only the hotels that were mentioned more than 100 times. What do I need to do? I have to do the having clause, not the where clause, but the having clause, because I'm filtering on the groups here, right? Now what I need to do, I need to check my output. If I see times mentioned below 100, it means that my query is doing something incorrect, right? So this is how you check your work. Now, here, this is a little bit different. You want to, you might be wondering, what do we do with missing values? So let's see here if I have anything with missing values. No, in this case, no. But if I was loading, see this here, it also depends how you do the count, right? Sometimes when there are missing values, if you put the column name in here, right, then it's gonna just count the rows where the value is not missing, right? This is what it's gonna do. But let's look at this. Here I want to count the number of by sentiment, right? So let's run this and see here I said where review rating is not null. I'm excluding null values, right? So let's do that. Let's run selected. So basically, how do you treat the missing values in a SQL? You can exclude them. You can say where review rating is not null, right? That will include the nulls, the missing values. Otherwise, you can use a function called NVL, and you can add another category called unknown. So if you have any review rating, which is blank, if you have unspecified review rating, then you want to count it as unknown. Well, in this case, probably there won't be, because, oh, here it is. You have 80 rows where the sentiment value is blank. So if the sentiment value is blank, I want to call it what? Unknown, right? So, well, what I'm doing here, you're converting, the NVL function is going to say, hey, I want to treat my missing values as a predefined value unknown, and then I want to do everything else, right? I want to count everything else, number of values per sentiment, and here is where a sentiment is blank. So remember that how you treat missing values, you may omit the rows, or you may or you may just count you might omit the rows, or you may use some kind of predefined value, right? NVL is going to do this as unknown. Now, well, this is a little bit complex, and we're going to go through it. But before we do this, I want to show you something else. So this is what's going to happen if review rating is missing. So let's try this select statement, right? So see this, it's because here we're counting on this column. You don't see any missing values because you're counting straight on the column. On the other hand, if you do this, you're going to see now that you should see now a missing row. So let's see, let's expand. You're expected to see some missing values. Okay, so if I was loading the whole data set, oh, here it is. Well, do you see this? This is West Valley province. Do you see this? There is a blank review rating, and then the count is 2. See this? So this is blank. On the other hand, when I ran it before, I wanted the blank to be treated as what? As unknown. So there are several ways to do that. Here, it's just going to show as blank, right? What I showed you before, it can treat it as unknown, or you may skip, right? Well, this I'm gonna show you now. Let's go back to slides because it's okay. So here we talked about this one, right? Well, we talked about the group by, right? Those are the advanced query. We talked about the grouping columns, right? Oh, and one thing to keep in mind is that you can have more than one grouping column. That's what I just did. I did the province and I did the review rating, right? When I was just running the code here, this is province and review rating. I have 2 grouping columns, right? So these 2 guys are grouping, and this is the aggregate, right? Because this is going to produce what? The count. So I have 2 grouping. Remember this, the columns that you use for grouping should be also listed in a group by. So every non-aggregate column in a select clause must appear in a group by clause. This is important. So here, what I'm doing the count by what? By province and review rating. So province and review rating must show up in the group by clause. Okay. Now, that's it. Yeah. Next thing. Well, now this is what I want to do. This is my task. I want to produce this summary. I want to have 1 row per hotel. 1 row. I want to have a column positive, right? And I want to count how many time this hotel is mentioned positively, how many times it's mentioned negatively, and how many times it's neutral, slightly negative, and unknown, right? And then the total. I want to produce something like this, okay? Because, well, it's very convenient, right? Now, one thing in your output that you want to check if you see something in the assignment, if you add the sums in here in the row, that should add up to this total, okay? Next row, the count should add up to the total. If that's not the case, then somewhere in the query you've made a mistake, okay? You also have a query where you list the number of times each hotel mentioned. So the number here, this number here, has to match the numbers returned by that query, okay? If not, then there is a problem in your select statement. But how do we produce something like this? There are two steps to think about it this way. We could say this. See, this is a little bit complicated, but the first query here, let's see, this is a preparation query. So let me run this. This is a preparation. I'm gonna do run selected. Let's see what happens. Basically, what I'm doing here is this. For each row, I have these columns here. So I'm listing, this is a hotel name. This is a review rating for this specific hotel. So what I'm saying is that if the rating is positive, then I'm setting the positive column to 1, the rest of the columns to 0. If the rating is neutral, right, I can set the neutral column to 1 and everything else 0, right? So this is a preparation, right? Think of it this way. I have something like this, right? So if I have 0 and 1s, how do I know how many I have positive, how many I have slightly positive? Don't I take the sum, right? Do you remember in your earlier assignment, you were given the department and you were asked to calculate how many people stayed and how many people left. And you had a column that had 0 and 1s, right? Now you have something similar here, right? Well, you have here positive, slightly positive, neutral, right? You have these values. So you can think of it this way. Let's each value be like a dummy column, right? So if this is review rating is positive, then we have a 1 in the positive column. If it's a negative, then we're gonna have in the negative, and etc. Right? You can have the case statement like this, right? So case when, and you specify the condition, right? And you specify what happens from hotel review. And here where categories equals hotel, and we sort by, we're gonna sort by the hotel name. Well, what this does is that it says if the hotel name is unknown, I want to list it at the end. Now this is a final query. What I'm doing is that I'm taking each of these dummy column, and I'm taking the sum, right? I want to take the sum and I'm gonna group by the name, group by the hotel. See this, group by the name. And I want to sort by the name, right? And nulls last. I remove the review rating column, right? You need to remove because you're grouping by name, you're not grouping by name and review rating, okay? But the first query, it was a preparation. So what you want to do is, if over here says positive, and you have a 1 in another column other than positive, then you're doing something wrong, right? So that and this one is a final query, okay? Well, so make sure that you understand, okay? Okay, so this is this complicated query. You have something along this line in this assignment as an ungraded, but if something is ungraded now, it means it can come back as graded later on. Oh, here, what is a subquery? Subquery is a query inside the query. You may place the subquery in the select clause, from, where, and having clause in the main query. All right. So basically, the subquery could return something like a table. So a virtual subquery that returns a table, it can be put in a from clause. Then it can return the single value, right? Like it can return a list, right? So we're gonna look at some examples here. So what do I have in here? This query returns the provinces that do not have any positive rating. So subquery has to return the list of distinct positive, these distinct provinces that have at least one positive review, right? So inner query returns a distinct list of provinces that have what? The positive rating. But then for the outer query, it's looking at not in a list returned by the inner query, right? That's what it's doing. So let's go back here. Well, so and you're asked to do the subquery, right? So okay, you're asked to do the subquery. Oh, here this is. Well, basically, what you could do is you could do something like this, right? You can do something like this, run selected. So this generates the list. Oops, I'll have to look at it. Oh, gotcha. Group by name, run selected. I got an error because I forgot to highlight the group by. See this? I've got the name column in the select clause. I have to have a group by. Okay. Now, see this here? It just, oh, here, this is just showing you how many positive counts are in here, right? This is a number of positive counts, but what I could do also, I could select this distinctly. It's run selected. It's gonna give me the list of hotels, list of provinces that have a positive rating. And now when I take this here, well, this is gonna give me list of provinces that don't have positive rating, right? Or in other words, they're not on this list. So if you're looking at something like a list of positive, right? If you're looking at distinct list of positive of provinces with positive rating, right? And if any of the province on that list also returned by this outer queries, then you're doing something wrong. Okay, so you're doing something wrong. Well, here this thing is average number of post per hotel name. So see this, it's basically see this inner query. It's trying to calculate the number of positive counts, right, for each hotel, and then it's going to take the average. So see here, it's going to return the name, hotel name, and it's going to return the number of positive ratings for that hotel, right? So this is the inner query. See this? This is the inner query. And what this will do is it's gonna do the average number of positive posts for hotel, okay? I'm gonna do run selected. And this is gonna do that on average, each hotel has 22 positive posts, okay? Now I want to know which hotels have above average. I want to know which hotels have above average, what? Number of positive posts. So here I've got a subquery nested. What I have to do is I have to take this query that returns the average number of posts per hotel, right? I have to take this and I have to plug this into what? The having clause, right? So here in the having clause, I should see which hotels have the number of positive review more than 22, have more than 22 positive reviews. So I'm going to run this and I want to know the hotel and the count, right? If you see anything here below 22, it means that your query is incorrect, right? So basically, see what I did? I calculated how many positive reviews each hotel has, right? Then what I did was I calculated the average number of positive posts and I want to know above average. So I have to put it in a having clause because I'm looking at the counts above average. Okay, makes sense, right? So I covered the subqueries, which was the hard part for today. Well, another thing that I wanted to cover is, well, this is a subquery that we just looked at, right? For the RStudio, you want to make sure that you select correct environment. Usually there is only one, but once in a while you can see more than one. So make sure that the environment that you're using is using only one capacity hour per 1 hour. Unlike the past assignment, this takes one capacity. If some of you ran out of capacity hours, I have some good news. Today, your hours should be reset to 50. So make sure after this session, make sure that your hours are reset to 50. You should be able to do now our work, okay? So, well, this slide, I'm gonna delete it, you may ignore. Because we no longer using RStudio, we no longer reading data from DB2 directly, okay? Starting from this semester, we are forced to upload the data to object storage, and then we read the data from object storage, okay? Okay, this one, I wanted to tell you that there is a little bit of the bonus code. You have the network of terms analysis code in your file that was given to you for the sentiment analysis tutorial. But at the end, this code is not discussed in a Word document. But I just wanted to point out that what this does is it's going to return you the subsets of terms, okay? So here there's a maximum set of, it's a maximum set of terms that appear together in the tweets, and we are trying to visualize the subset of terms. So if you choose to use network of terms method for your assignment 3, and if you want to aim for the higher grade on this assignment, or at least what I would have done it is I would have looked at the subsets of terms in addition to just actual network of term analysis. And you also have another bonus code for the k-means clustering. It's not explained in the file, it's left up for you to explore. Okay. If you're using the association rules method, you may want to explore the method parameters, right? So if you are getting only 2 rules, it means that you're probably plugging in the code from example, right? So if you run an association rule method on the data, on the assignment 3 data, you may need to tweak some method parameters, okay? Because you want to see more than 2 rules. Then you're also given the code to visualize the rules, but you can play around, you can check different available layouts. So that's for association rules. If you're using clustering, you want to look at the elbows method for the optimal number of the k values, okay? Well, and this is just a little bit the troubleshooting. So basically, remember that when I went to here, and well, if I don't see this option to the service credentials, when I edit the service, and I don't see this option for the service credential, it means you probably didn't add the service from IBM Cloud Catalog. More likely, you went to Watson Studio and added the service from Watson Studio, not from the IBM Cloud Catalog, okay? So for your troubleshooting purposes, remember this. If you don't see, you must see the service credentials, right? You won't be able to manage the service from the Watson Studio, okay? Just remember this, or Cloud Pack, that's what it's called now. Okay, well, I had to put this troubleshooting because that was one of the common errors that people saw. Well, and this one is, well, you may ignore this issue because this is no longer an issue. You're not reading the data straight from the file, but this issue here, it may still apply. So if you're getting, nope. So I'm gonna delete that slide. Sorry guys. Okay. Now this is a good troubleshooting issue. Look, your association rule method has a function called inspect. Inspect will return the rules, right? But when you're looking at the text analysis, there is also an inspect method, right? That returns a preview of the document. So sometimes you might be getting an error because you have two packages in memory with the same method. Well, what you need to do is you need to qualify the method name with the package name. If you're calling the function inside the rules package, right, then you want to put the rules package name, double column, and this is a function name. So whenever you have more than one package in memory that has the function with the same name, you qualify the function name with the package name, okay? Well, you want to make sure that. And another thing is that when you start RStudio, our rules is probably not loaded in memory. You have to load it in memory explicitly, okay? Now, another thing is that if you're repeating the course, you want to still download all files because there was a change. The change was made to the data file. Right, the change was made to the data file to make sure that it loads in the current version of DB2. And there was a change, the changes were made to the code and to the instructions, okay? Now here, well, this is another issue. For example, tweet ID, here what I did was I misspelled. So you're gonna be getting an error if in a query, if you somewhere in a query, if you misspell the column name, you're gonna be getting an error. So what you have to do is then you need to go back to the correct column names, right? And you need to check the spell to make sure you got the spelling correct, okay? And that same thing applies if you misspell the table name in your work, okay? Well, you probably remember with this slide, you have to keep an eye on your hours because when you just close the browser session, your runtime environment continues running until the session times out. It used to be 2 hours, but you do it once, do it twice. Tomorrow you come and there are no hours left on your environment, and you're gonna be disappointed, right? And those are additional the assignment tips, as I mentioned earlier. Please do not copy the SQL code to the rich text editor, okay? That's what you want to do. And those are the useful R commands, right? C command is a combined command. Remember this will remove all variables from the memory. The more you have in memory, the longer RStudio could take to load, okay? The longer RStudio could take to load. So beware of that. You want to delete the visualizations from RStudio that you no longer use, the plots, right? Because when you have a lot of plots that taking up the memory and RStudio could take longer to load. So always remove what you don't need. Remove especially matrices. They take a lot of space in the memory, right? So you want to have a clean exit, okay? And now let me see if there are questions. I want to see questions now. People, have you started working on assignment? Well, I need to tell you, please don't wait until the last minute because DB2 is an application that could go in the maintenance at any time. Okay, so it's Tuesday night. I don't want to hear people saying that, oh, there is a maintenance, we cannot do the work, but you need to do the work early. You need to do the work right now. You don't want to be affected by the last minute maintenance if there is one, right? You don't want to be affected by anything in the weather, like a storm, no power. You don't want to be affected by that, right? So you want to make sure you start the work as early as you can, since by now you should have read all of the materials, right? So, okay, anything else? Anything else you would like me to go over? Professor Azan, anything else you would like to say? Oh, well, you will get the slides. Yes, you will get the slides, no problem, Jeffrey. You'll get the slides, and I'll give you. Huh? Good. Oh, you want to see which R code? May I ask Jeffrey? Which R code are you referring to? R code for the assignment? You mean you need help with R code for the Jeffrey? You may unmute yourself and speak up. I'm trying to understand the question.
Hi, I'm just interested in getting the slides so I can look at one of the R code slides is of greater value to me than some of the other ones. Since I was a little more troubled by it, I wanted to see that so I could think about it.
Which one? Which code? No, because it's a good time to ask questions. Yeah, go ahead and ask.
Yeah, keep moving back up. Sorry, without seeing the details that I didn't take a note. Yeah, here we go. There was this one.
This one is just well, here just trying to identify the maximum subsets of terms. But before you get there, see this what is G? This is a graph, right? I just took the snippet. I did not take all the code above. I just took the snippet because you have a code. You have a code in the assignment that builds a graph. G is a graph, right? Here, I'm just listing the maximum subset. And here, I just specified the color bar. I defined the color, right? So if you look the help documentation, I took it straight from help. I want to use the rainbow color in my visualization. And then in here, this plot function comes from the comes from the network, right? Network of storm package. Okay.
Okay.
iGraph. It's from
that makes it a little more clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, G is a graph, and this is see this one here. You want to mark the group, see, and then you play around with the colors, etc. Yeah, you play around with the colors, with the text size. Yeah, so that's what it is. Yeah, G is a graph, and it's defined in a code. It's a network. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So this is basically what it is. Anything else?
Go back to the I would have probably so let me try English for a second. I'm trying to be more clear. I like the way you're doing your examples. I've been programming in SQL for quite a long time.
Oh, the SQL? Okay.
Yeah.
The SQL code?
And there was one example that you just did a little bit different than I would have. It was where you were doing your case statements and you were doing basically multiple case statements, one case statement per column, and then you were embedding that as a subquery in order to do your group bys. This is the section. And then you did the sum around it because since you're doing the group by, you have to just to get it to pop the result, even though you're returning the hotel one name per row.
Well, yeah, but remember earlier I did the query. If it's a positive, I'm setting to 1. So when I take the sum, right?
Yeah, it's you're one hot encoding the values from the review rating so that each one's in a separate column. Because except you keep all the columns, you don't get rid of one.
Yes, because here, unfortunately, there is no way to do the pivot table. That's why. Well, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll look at it closely. This makes sense to me. I understand why you did a sum. You were forced to because of the group by and because you can't just return that value, or you'd have to group by all of them, which would be insane.
Well, here, this one just returns the values. I'm not counting here.
Right. Yeah, that's just because you're basically pivoting the values instead of them being a single value, you've pivoted them out to the right. So there's multiple columns. Yes. And then below it though, is where my question was, you were doing the sum around them so that you can, each name you're grouping by name. So it's going to, you're almost forced to put the sum around it because it's only one row per hotel, right?
Yes. Well, I need to list one.
Oh no, there's multiple hotel ratings come back for a single hotel, and that's why you're doing it. I got it now.
Yeah, because
It just
not
clicked.
sure- yeah, because oops, I'm not sure why it's now. Oh, because I did not run. I did
You got to
not
select it
run-
all. Yeah. I'm
Yes, it's
familiar with Microsoft SQL Server,
yes.
not
Uh-huh.
DB2. It's been 30
Oh,
years since
yeah.
I was in a company that had DB2.
Mhm. Well, yeah, there is more than one way to do it. Because my first thought was that, oh, you're gonna suggest me to do decode. Well, decode instead of case will work, but I try to avoid it because it does not work on some of the platforms.
Right. What you've written is ANSI SQL and is going to run in SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, blah, blah, blah. This
Yes,
is generic and will work in all of them.
yes.
There are some specifics like
Mhm.
it's top in SQL Server, it's
Uh-huh.
row num in
Uh-huh.
Oracle, and it's this
Yes.
limit thing
Yes.
here. And
Mhm.
then the ability to control the nulls is unique to DB2 as well, or the
Mhm.
putting them in the order. That was interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
cool. Thank you.
yes.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Sure. Here is NVL, but on HANA platform, it's like if no.
Yep.
Yeah, it's different. Yes, on each platform. Yes, that's excellent case. Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
I'm biased. I like Microsoft SQL Server the best,
Oh,
but that's
yeah.
just my bias.
I agree.
Has some hooks that are nice. Cool.
Mhm.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm using HANA at work. We used to use Oracle, but they transferred to HANA. And everything, wherever I had decode in a query, everything failed. You have to
Right.
rewrite it as.
It's like
Mhm.
you said it, the NVL versus is null, those kind of
Yeah,
things. There are specifics to
yeah.
each language.
Mhm. Or you can do also, well, map is not going to work here, but on HANA, you can do map. Yeah. Here, well, I used case statement because that's going to work on most of the platforms. So I want to show what will work on most of the platforms. That's what I did.
Yep. Makes
Makes
total
sense?
sense. Thank you very much. I got it.
Oh, yeah, most welcome. Yeah, SQL questions. I call myself expert. No, seriously. I know SQL really well, better than R and better than Python. So please go ahead, submit tickets. I'll help you with queries. Ungraded especially. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. I know SQL the best, Python the second best, and R the least. So,
Yeah.
so cool. Thank you very
Sure.
much.
Sure. Anything else? Maybe Professor Azan will. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much for the session. Yeah, a lot of do's and don'ts. I just recommend everyone to follow these do's and don'ts, and please submit the assignment on time to not to lose points just because of the late submission.
Yeah. And submit the cases because, well, I think for most of the people, this assignment is the hardest. Well, honestly, I think 2 is the hardest, but most of the people say that this assignment is the hardest in the program. Well, so make sure that you put enough time. You need to schedule enough time for this because this cannot be done on a day when the work is due. I know that some of you, 2 weeks before the work is due, Leo, it sends you the notification, right? And some of you start working on assignment when you receive this notification, right? So this is not good. You want to start working on it now, okay? Please start working, get the tutorial out of the way, and then assignment 3 will be available, okay? So anything else? Anything else, people? Well, this is your opportunity for questions. If there are no questions, then we're gonna stop the recording and end the session. Well, I was hoping we could get more interactive, more questions, but well, if there are no more questions, Professor Gorchova, you want to add anything else? No? No? Okay. then we're gonna call it a night. Okay, thank you guys for your time. Thank you very much. And I'm gonna stop sharing and stop the recording.